Dr. Han Tawan stared at the ceiling of his underground lab. The old lights flickered, making shadows dance on the metal walls. He had not seen the real sun in 5 years. Nobody had. The world above was too toxic to live in now. He turned back to his computer screen, rubbing his tired eyes. The lab was deep under what used to be Seoul, protected by thick walls and air filters. On his screen, a red line showed the rising toxin levels in Earth's atmosphere. Each year, it got worse. "Dr. Han," a soft voice called. He looked up to see Dr. Kim Da-mei, his best researcher, standing in the doorway. She held a tablet in her hands, and her face showed excitement. "The new test results are ready." Han stood up quickly, his chair rolling back. "Show me," he said, walking to her side. On her tablet, he saw images of cells combining, human cells mixing with animal DNA. This was test number 2157. They had failed 2156 times before. But this time was different. The cells weren't dying. They were growing. "It's working," Kim whispered, her eyes wide. "The tardigrade DNA is accepting the human cells." Han felt his heart beat faster. Tardigrades were tiny animals that could survive almost anywhere, in space, in radiation, in toxic waste. If human DNA could combine with theirs, maybe people could survive in the poison air too. "Call the team," Han ordered, walking quickly to the main lab. "Everyone needs to see this." The main lab was bigger than his office, filled with glass containers and machines. Screens covered the walls, showing different tests and numbers. 5 other scientists joined them, all wearing the same white coats. "Look at this," Kim said, putting her results on the main screen. "The hybrid cells are stable. They're reproducing. And look at their survival rate in toxic conditions." The numbers were amazing. These new cells could live in conditions that would kill normal human cells in seconds. Han felt hope for the first time in years. "We need to move to human trials," he said. The room went quiet. Everyone looked at him. "Sir," Park Sung-min, the security chief, stepped forward. "Human trials are dangerous. The government approved this project because we're running out of time." Han cut him off. He pointed to another screen showing their food and water supplies. The numbers were getting lower every day. "Our filters are failing. Our food is running low. In 10 years, these bunkers won't protect us anymore." He walked to a big container in the middle of the lab. Inside, through green liquid, they could see small animals, rats and mice they had tested on. All of them were alive, even though they had been exposed to the toxic air. "We can save humanity," Han continued. "Yes, it means changing our DNA. Yes, it means becoming something different. But isn't that better than extinction?" Kim stepped forward. "I volunteer," she said. "No," Han shook his head. "We need you here, working on the project. I've already found our first volunteer." He pressed a button on his tablet. A door opened, and a young man walked in. He was tall and thin, wearing simple gray clothes like all bunker residents. "This is Lee Jin-ho," Han said. "He's 25 years old, healthy, and he understands the risks. He's ready to be our first human trial." Jin-ho bowed to the group. "I want to help," he said simply. "If there's a chance to make a better future, I want to try." The scientists looked at each other. They knew this was a big moment. Everything would change after this. "Prepare the lab," Han ordered. "We start tomorrow." That night, Han stayed late in his office. He looked at old pictures on his tablet. Pictures of Seoul before the world turned toxic. Green parks, blue sky, people walking without masks. His daughter had been only 5 when the air turned bad. She didn't remember these things. He touched the picture of his daughter on the screen. She was in another bunker now, far away. He hadn't seen her in 3 years. "I'll fix this," he whispered to her picture. "I'll make a world where you can breathe again." In his pocket, he felt the small data chip he always carried. It held his own DNA sample. If the test worked with Jin-Ho, Han would be next. He would change himself too, become something new, something that could survive in this broken world. Tomorrow, they would try to save humanity. Tomorrow, they would try to make the first human-animal hybrid. Han looked one last time at his daughter's picture before turning off his tablet. Outside his office, the lab hummed with power, ready for what would come next. 3 months had passed since Lee Jin-Ho's first treatment. He lay in the glass chamber, floating in green liquid, while machines beeped around him. Dr. Kim Do-mai watched his vital signs on the screen, amazed by what she saw. His cells are completely changed, she told Dr. Han, who stood next to her. The tardigrade DNA has merged with every part of him. Through the glass, they could see the changes in Jin-Ho's body. His skin had become tougher, almost shiny. When he opened his eyes, they had a strange golden color. But he was alive, and he was stable. "Wake him up," Han ordered. Kim pressed some buttons, and the green liquid began to drain. As the chamber opened, Jin-Ho sat up slowly. He looked at his hands, turning them over, studying the new texture of his skin. "How do you feel?" Han asked. Jin-Ho's voice was rough from not using it. "Different," he said. "Strong." He stood up, water dripping from his body. "I can feel everything. The air, the temperature, even the small changes in pressure." Security Chief Park Sung-min walked into the room with a special container. Inside was a sample of the toxic air from the surface. Everyone except Jin-Ho put on masks. "Are you ready for the test?" Park asked. Jin-Ho nodded. They had practiced this many times. Park opened the container just a little, letting some toxic air into the room. The sensors immediately started beeping warnings, but Jin-Ho just breathed normally. He didn't cough or feel sick. He smiled. "I can breathe it," he said. "It feels normal." The scientists checked their instruments. Jin-Ho's body was processing the toxins like they were nothing. The tardigrade DNA was working perfectly. Later that day, they ran more tests. Jin-Ho could survive extreme temperatures. He didn't need much food or water. His skin could resist radiation and most chemicals. He was everything they had hoped for. But there were problems too. "I don't sleep much anymore," Jin-Ho told Kim during his checkup. "And sometimes I don't feel human." Kim watched him carefully. "What do you mean?" "My memories feel strange, like they belong to someone else." Jin-Ho looked at his reflection in a metal panel. "When I look in mirrors, I don't recognize myself at first. It's like I'm becoming something else." Kim wrote everything down, worried. They had changed his body, but were they changing his mind too? In his office, Han was excited about the success. He was already planning more trials. "We need different kinds of hybrids," he told his team. "Some with butterfly DNA to filter air better, some with deep-sea fish DNA to use oxygen better. Each hybrid can help in different ways." But Park wasn't so sure. "Sir," he said, "we need to be careful. Jin-Ho is struggling with the changes. If we make more hybrids too quickly, we don't have time to be careful." Han cut him off. He showed them new data from the surface. The toxic levels were rising faster than expected. "The bunker's filters will fail in 8 years, not 10. We need more hybrids now." That night, Jin-Ho couldn't sleep again. He walked through the quiet lab, his new eyes seeing clearly in the dark. He found Kim working late. "Dr. Kim," he said, making her jump. "Sorry, I forget people can't see well in the dark now." She smiled at him. "It's okay. Can't sleep?" "No." He sat down near her desk. "Can I ask you something? Am I still human?" Kim put down her work. "What makes someone human, Jin-Ho? Is it their DNA, their body, or is it what they think and feel?" "I don't know anymore." He looked at his hands again. "But I know why I did this. To help everyone. That feels human, right?" "Yes," she said softly. "That's very human." In his own office, Han was looking at Jin-Ho's test results. Soon, he would use the DNA sample in his pocket. Soon, he would change too. But first, they needed more volunteers. He pressed a button on his computer, sending messages to the other bunkers. "We have succeeded," the message said. "The first hybrid lives. Who will be next?" As he sent the message, he didn't know that someone else was watching. In another part of the bunker, a screen lit up with his message. A figure in a military uniform read it and smiled. "Perfect," General Baek Hyun-sik whispered. "Everything is going according to plan." 1 month after Jin-Ho's success, 3 new volunteers arrived at the lab. Dr. Han watched them through the observation window. Each one had been chosen for different reasons. Yoon Harry was small and quiet. She used to be a nurse before the world turned toxic. She had volunteered for the butterfly DNA program. "Butterflies can filter toxins better than any machine we've made," Dr. Kim explained to her. "Your body will learn to do the same." Kang Do-hyun was a former deep-sea diver. He was tall and strong with calm eyes. He would receive DNA from fish that lived in the deepest parts of the ocean. These fish could live with almost no oxygen. "You'll be able to breathe in places where others can't," Han told him. The third volunteer was Choi Mi-rae, who had survived alone in a broken bunker for 2 years before being rescued. She was tough and smart. She would get DNA from desert foxes, animals that could live in the harshest conditions. Jin-Ho visited each of them before their treatments began. "It will change you," he told them honestly. "Not just your body, your mind too. But you'll be able to help save others." The volunteers went into treatment one at a time. Harry was first. When she came out of the green liquid after 3 months, her skin had a slight shine, like butterfly wings in sunlight. She could breathe in toxic air, and her body turned the poisons into harmless substances. "It's like having a filter inside me," she said during tests. "I can feel my body cleaning the air I breathe." Do-hyun's treatment took longer. When he finally woke up, his skin had turned a pale blue color. He could hold his breath for hours and needed very little oxygen to live. In toxic areas where the air was thin, he could breathe easily. Mi-rae's changes were less visible, but just as strong. Her body became tough, able to survive extreme heat and cold. She needed almost no water to live, and her senses became very sharp. "We have 4 different types of hybrids now," Han told his team proudly. "Each one perfect for different tasks." But Dr. Kim noticed problems. The hybrids were changing in unexpected ways. Harry started spending long hours under the bright lab lights, like a butterfly seeking sun. "The darkness bothers me now," she admitted. "I need light to feel strong." Do-hyun preferred to stay in water whenever he could. The lab built him a special tank to sleep in. "Air feels too thin now," he explained. "Water is more comfortable." Mi-rae became more active at night and quieter during the day. Her new fox DNA made her naturally nocturnal. She could see perfectly in darkness. The hybrids started to spend more time together, away from normal humans. They understood each other in ways others couldn't. "We're like a new family," Harry said one day, sitting with the others in their special break room. The room had different areas for each of them: bright lights, a water tank, dark corners. "A very strange family," Jin-Ho joked. But he was happy. He wasn't alone anymore. Security Chief Park watched all of this carefully. He saw how the hybrids were becoming their own group, separate from regular humans. It worried him. "They're changing too fast," he told Han. "What if they decide they don't need us anymore?" "They're still human," Han said firmly. "They're just improved." But that night, something happened that worried everyone. During a test, Mi-rae got angry at a lab worker who got too close to her. She growled, a real animal growl, and her eyes glowed in the dark. The lab worker ran away, frightened. Mi-rae was shocked by her own behavior. "I'm sorry," she said later. "I don't know why I did that. It just happened." Dr. Kim added this to her growing list of concerns. The animal DNA wasn't just changing their bodies. It was affecting their behavior too. In his private office, General Bake read the reports about the hybrids with growing interest. 4 different types, he said to himself. 4 different weapons. He began making plans. But he didn't know that Park was watching him too. The security chief had seen the general's secret messages. He knew something bad was coming. "We have to protect them," Park whispered to himself, looking at the hybrids through the security cameras. Before it's too late, Park Sung-min sat in his dark security office, watching video feeds from around the lab. It was late at night, but he couldn't sleep. What he had discovered was too important. On his screen, he played again the secret message he had found. It was from General Bake to someone higher in the government. "The hybrid program is ready for military use. These subjects could be perfect weapons. Imagine soldiers who can survive any environment, who need no special equipment." Park stopped the video and rubbed his tired eyes. He had to tell someone, but who could he trust? Just then, his door opened. Dr. Kim Da-mai walked in, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "I saw your light on," she said, offering him 1 cup. Park looked at her for a long moment. Then he turned his screen so she could see it. "Watch this," he said. As Kim watched the general's message, her face grew pale. "They want to use them as weapons, but that's not what this program is for." "There's more," Park said. He showed her other messages. Plans to move the hybrids to a military base. Orders to start making more hybrids, but only strong, aggressive ones. "We have to stop this," Kim said. "We have to tell Dr. Han." "No," Park said quickly. Han might already know. He's been pushing to make more hybrids so fast. Maybe he's part of this." Before Kim could answer, an alarm flashed on Park's screen. Something was happening in the new hybrid area. The newest hybrid, HFY, was having problems. He had received wolf DNA 2 weeks ago. Now he was awake in his room, pacing and growling. Through the camera, they watched as HFY punched the wall of his room, leaving a deep dent in the metal. His eyes glowed yellow in the dark. "His aggression levels are rising," Kim said, checking the medical data on her tablet. "The wolf DNA is making him more violent." "Or maybe they designed him that way," Park said quietly. "Maybe they want him violent." Just then, Jin-ho appeared at Ji-won's door. As the first successful hybrid, Jin-ho often helped the others adjust. "Ji-won." Jin-ho called softly. "Are you okay?" Ji-won turned, his face angry. "Okay. I'm better than okay. I'm strong. Stronger than any of you." He laughed, but it sounded more like a growl. "Why are we hiding down here? We should be up there, taking back our world." Jin-ho stepped back. This wasn't like the normal adjustment problems. This was different. In the security office, Park and Kim watched with worry. "He's exactly what the military wants," Park said. "A perfect weapon. We have to help the others," Kim said. "If the military takes them, they'll turn them all into weapons," Park finished, "or try to, and kill any who resist." They made a plan. Kim would warn the hybrids, quietly. Park would watch the general, learn his plans. They had to move carefully. But they didn't know that someone else was watching too. In his private room, General Bake smiled as he watched everything on his own screen. His spy cameras saw more than Park's did. He saw Park and Kim making their plans. He saw the hybrids talking in their special room. "Let them plan," he whispered. "Soon, none of it will matter." He pressed a button, sending a message to his troops. They were already in the bunker, disguised as maintenance workers and lab assistants. Soon, they would take control. In the hybrid area, Jae-won paced in his room, getting angrier. The others tried to calm him, but nothing worked. "Something's wrong with him," Harry said, watching from a safe distance. "This isn't normal hybrid adjustment." "No," Mireille agreed, her fox-enhanced senses alert. "He smells wrong. Different." Do-hyun floated in his water tank, thinking. Maybe, he said slowly, he's exactly what they wanted him to be. Jinho looked at his fellow hybrids. They were all different: butterfly, fish, fox, tardigrade, and now wolf. Each changed in their own way. But Jai-Won's change seemed planned, designed for violence. "We need to be ready," Jinho told the others. "Something bad is coming." He didn't know how right he was. In just a few hours, everything would change. The attack came at midnight. Soldiers in black uniforms moved quietly through the lab's halls, but they didn't know that Maire's fox senses had already detected them. "They're coming," she whispered to the other hybrids. At least 30 soldiers, armed. They were gathered in Do-hyun's room, near his water tank. Jinho looked at each of them. Haeri with her butterfly-shine skin, Do-hyun floating in his tank, Maire with her alert eyes, and Jae-won pacing angrily in the corner. "We need to warn Dr. Kim and Dr. Han," Jinho said. But before they could move, the lights went out. Red emergency lights came on, making everything look blood red. In the security office, Park saw the soldiers on his screens. He grabbed his phone to warn Kim, but the lines were dead. They had cut communications. "Looking for this," a voice said behind him. Park turned to see General Baek holding the gun. "You should have been more careful, Chief Park." Down in the lab, Dr. Han was working late as usual. He heard the first gunshots and knew what was happening. He ran to his computer and started deleting files. "They can't get the research," he said to himself. "They can't make more weapons." The door burst open. Soldiers pointed guns at him. "Step away from the computer," one ordered. Han pressed one last button. All the screens went black. "The research is gone," he said. "You'll never make more hybrids." The soldier hit him with his gun. Han fell, but he was smiling. In the hybrid area, Kim found the others. "We have to run," she told them. "They're here to take you to a military base, to make you into weapons." "Let them try," Jae-won growled, his eyes glowing yellow. "No," Jinho said firmly. "No fighting. We need to escape." Suddenly, they heard Han's voice over the emergency speakers. He must have reached the main control room. "My friends," his voice said, "I'm sorry. I was blind. I didn't see how they would use you, but I can help you escape. I've unlocked the emergency tunnels. Go now." And there was a pause, then a gunshot. "Live free." The speaker went silent. "Dr. Han," Haeri cried. "We can't help him now," Kim said, holding back tears. "We have to run." They moved through the dark halls, each hybrid using their special abilities. Maire led the way, seeing in the dark. Do-hyun carried water packs he would need. Haeri's butterfly senses felt the air movements, warning them of coming soldiers. Jae-won wanted to fight each group they saw, but Jinho held him back. "We're not weapons," he kept saying. "We're not killers." They reached the emergency tunnels, but soldiers were there too. They were trapped. "The surface," Kim said suddenly. "The soldiers can't follow you there. The air is too toxic." "But what about you?" Jinho asked. Kim smiled sadly. "I'll create a distraction. Park taught me how to use the security systems." Before they could argue, she ran to a control panel. Alarms started blaring everywhere. Doors opened and closed randomly. The soldiers looked confused. "Go!" Kim shouted. The hybrids ran to the surface exit, all except Jae-won. "I'm staying," he growled. "This is my chance to fight." "Jae-won, please," Jinho tried one last time. "Don't let them use you." But Jae-won ran toward the soldiers, howling. The others reached the surface door. Beyond it was the toxic world they had been created to survive in. They had never been outside before. "Ready?" Jinho asked. Haeri took his hand. Do-hyun adjusted his water pack. Maire's eyes glowed in the dark. They opened the door. Toxic wind hit their faces. The sky was dark green, poisonous, but they could breathe it. Behind them, they heard gunshots and Jiwon's howls. Kim's voice came over the speaker one last time. Run. Live. Show them what humanity can really be. They ran into the poison world, leaving behind the lab that had made them. Behind them, their old world burned. Ahead was the unknown. But they were together, and they were free. The hybrids had been walking for 3 days in the toxic wasteland. The sky stayed dark green, and the ground was covered in gray dust. But they were alive, and they were free. Jin-Ho led the group, his tardigrade-enhanced body handling the harsh conditions easily. Harry walked next to him, her butterfly DNA helping her filter the worst toxins from the air around them. Behind them, Do-hyun carried his water tanks, taking small sips to survive. Mi-rae moved like a shadow, her fox senses always alert for danger. Look, Mi-rae said, pointing ahead. Through the toxic haze, they saw something big and square. A building? Harry asked, squinting. They moved closer carefully. It was an old research station, half buried in toxic dust. The walls were thick and gray, with broken windows and a heavy metal door. Should we go in? Do-hyun asked. Mi-rae sniffed the air. No people inside. No fresh scents at all. Jin-Ho tested the door. It was locked, but his new strength made it easy to break open. Inside, emergency lights still glowed weakly, powered by old solar panels. This place has been empty for years, Harry said, looking around. There were old computers, dusty lab equipment, and rows of file cabinets. Look for anything useful, Jin-Ho told them. They split up to search the building. Mi-rae found food storage rooms with old canned food. Do-hyun discovered more water tanks he could use, but the biggest discovery came from Harry. Everyone. She called from a room filled with computers. Come here. The others rushed to her. She was staring at a computer screen she had managed to turn on. Look at this, she said, pointing to files on the screen. This was an environmental research station. They were working on ways to clean the toxic air. Jin-Ho read through the files quickly. The scientists here had been trying to create special plants that could clean toxins from the air. Plants that could live in the poison world and make it better. Did it work? Do-hyun asked. Some of it did, Harry said, reading more files. They made special seeds for plants that could clean the air and soil. But then the military took over everything. Mi-rae finished, looking at more papers she had found, just like they tried to do to us. But there was more. Jin-Ho found another file that made his heart beat faster. Look at this, he said. They did tests on the children of people who worked with these plants. The children, they were different. They could handle toxins better than normal people. Like us? Harry whispered. Not exactly like us, Jin-Ho said. But it proves something important. When humans change to survive, they can pass those changes to their children. Everyone was quiet, thinking about what this meant. We could have children, Harry said softly. Children who could survive in this world. And if we find these special seeds, Do-hyun added, we could start cleaning the planet. But their discovery had not gone unnoticed. Outside the building, hidden in the toxic haze, someone was watching them. Mi-rae's ears twitched. Someone's out there, she said. They've been following us. The others got ready for trouble, but when the figure stepped out of the haze, it wasn't a soldier. It was a woman in a protective suit. She held up her hands to show she had no weapons. I've been looking for you, she said through her suit's speaker. My name is Nam Yoo-jin. I lead a group of survivors who've been hiding from the military. We've been watching your escape from the lab. How do we know we can trust you? Jin-Ho asked. Yoo-jin reached into her suit pocket slowly and pulled out something small and green. Because I have these, she said, showing them. In her hand were seeds, the special seeds from the research station's project. We've been keeping them safe, waiting for the right time, waiting for people who could help us use them. The hybrids looked at each other. This was their chance, not just to survive, but to help fix the broken world. We should go with her, Harry said. We can help each other. Jin-Ho nodded slowly. But first, we need to download all this research data. The military might find this place too. We need to save everything we can. As they worked to save the files, Mireille kept watch outside. In the toxic sky, she thought she saw something change. A tiny spot where the green looked slightly lighter. Maybe, just maybe, they could bring back the blue sky after all. Nan Yujin's hidden base was amazing. It was built inside an old mountain, with thick walls to keep out the toxic air. When the hybrids arrived, they saw hundreds of people living there, all working together. "Welcome to Haven," Yujin said, leading them through the main tunnel. "We've been here for 5 years, growing food in special rooms and planning how to clean the earth." The hybrids saw large caves filled with plants growing under bright lights. People in protective suits worked with the plants carefully. "These are normal plants," Yujin explained. "But in that room," she pointed to a sealed door, "that's where we keep the special seeds, the ones that might save our world." A group of children ran past them, playing. They stopped to stare at the hybrids with wide eyes. "Are you really part animal?" one small boy asked Jin-Ho. Jin-Ho smiled and knelt down. "Yes, I have special abilities that help me survive outside." "Like a superhero," the boy said excitedly. "No," Jin-Ho said gently. "Like someone who wants to help make things better." Yujin showed them to their new rooms. Each room was special for their needs. A water tank for Do-hyun, bright lights for Harry, dark corners for Mireille, and strong walls that could handle Jin-Ho's tough skin. "We need your help," Yujin told them later, in a meeting room. "We have the seeds, but planting them outside is dangerous. The military patrols the area, and the toxic air kills normal humans in minutes. But we can survive out there," Harry said, understanding. "Yes, and with your abilities, you can help protect our planters when they go outside." Mireille, who had been quiet, spoke up. "The military is still looking for us, aren't they?" Yujin nodded sadly. "They want your powers. They want to make more hybrids for their army, but they don't know about Haven yet." Over the next few weeks, the hybrids helped the Haven people with their work. Do-hyun taught them better ways to save water. Harry helped make better air filters using what she knew about butterfly wings. Mireille's sharp senses helped guard the base. Jin-Ho's strength helped them build new rooms. But most importantly, they started planting the special seeds outside. They would go out in small groups. The hybrids would protect the workers in protective suits who planted the seeds. Slowly, patches of strange new plants started growing in the toxic wasteland. "The plants are working," a scientist told them one day, checking readings on her instruments. "The air is a little cleaner where they grow." The children of Haven loved the hybrids. They would ask for stories about the outside world. Jin-Ho taught them about being brave. Harry showed them how to care for plants. Do-hyun told them about the oceans that were still clean deep underground. Mireille taught them how to move quietly and listen carefully. But one day, Mireille heard something worrying. She was outside with a planting group when her fox ears caught a sound. "Helicopters," she said, "far away, but coming closer." They quickly packed up and returned to Haven. Yujin called a meeting. "The military is searching this area," she said. "They must know we're somewhere nearby." "Then we need to protect Haven," Jin-Ho said. The other hybrids nodded. "But not by fighting," Harry added. "We're not weapons. We need a different way." They made a plan. The hybrids would lead the military away from Haven, while also protecting the new plants they had grown. They would show the world that they were not monsters or weapons, but helpers and protectors. That night, Jin-Ho couldn't sleep. He walked to the growing rooms and looked at the special plants. Their leaves glowed slightly in the dark, cleaning the toxic air even now. Yujin found him there. "Thinking about tomorrow?" she asked. "Thinking about Dr. Han," Jin-Ho said. "He wanted to save humanity. I hope we're doing what he would have wanted. You are, Jin said. You're not just saving humanity. You're helping it grow into something better. Something that can fix its mistakes. Outside Haven, in the toxic night, the special plants kept growing. And somewhere out there, the military was coming. But this time, the hybrids weren't alone. They had found their real purpose, and people who understood them. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The military came at dawn. 3 helicopters appeared through the toxic green sky, followed by trucks full of soldiers in protective suits. Mireille heard them first, her fox ears picking up the sounds from far away. They're coming from 3 directions, she told the others. At least 50 soldiers. The hybrids stood on a hill covered with the special plants they had grown. Behind them, hidden in the mountain, was Haven. They had to protect it. Remember the plan, Jinho said. We're not here to fight. We're here to show them something better. General Bake stepped out of the first helicopter. He wore a special suit that protected him from the toxic air. Through his mask, he smiled when he saw the hybrids. My weapons have come home, he said through his suit speaker. And look, you've made a garden in this dead world. We're not your weapons, Jinho called back. We're helping to fix what humans broke. The general laughed. Fix it? Why fix it when we can rule it? With an army of hybrids, we could control everything that's left. Like Jai-1, Harry asked. What did you do to him? The wolf hybrid. He serves us now. He understood what real power means. The general pointed at the plants. And now we'll take your little garden too. Study it. Use it for our own plans. Soldiers started moving forward, but then something strange happened. The toxic wind changed direction. It began blowing straight at the soldiers. Harry stood with her arms raised. Her butterfly DNA let her feel and control air currents. She was pushing the toxic wind toward the soldiers. Your suits won't last long in strong toxic wind, she warned them. The soldiers stopped. Even their protective suits couldn't handle too much toxic air. But General Bake wasn't worried. Shoot the plants, he ordered. Burn their precious garden. The soldiers raised their guns. But Du-hyun had been busy. While everyone watched Harry, he had used his water tanks to soak the ground. Now he raised his hands, and water burst from the earth like geysers. The soldiers fell back, their guns wet and useless. Mireille moved like a shadow through the confusion, using her fox speed to grab weapons and throw them away. She didn't hurt anyone. She was too fast to catch, too quiet to stop. But the general had one more plan. He opened a cage in one of the trucks, and out jumped Jai-1. The wolf hybrid's eyes glowed with anger, and something else, pain. Kill them, the general ordered. Jai-1 howled and ran at Jinho. But Jinho didn't move. Look at the plants, Jai-1. Jinho said calmly. Look what we're doing. We're not destroying. We're creating. Jai-1 stopped. For the first time, he really looked at the glowing plants around them. He saw how they cleaned the air, how they made the world a little better. They've been controlling you with drugs, Jinho said softly. Fighting isn't your real nature. You can choose who you want to be. Jai-1's eyes cleared a little. He looked at his hands, then at the general. You've been poisoning me. Shoot them all. The general screamed at his soldiers. But then he saw something that made him freeze. People were coming out of the mountain. Hundreds of them. The people of Haven walked toward the soldiers, led by Jin. They carried no weapons. Instead, they carried plants, the special plants that could clean the world. Look at what your weapons can do, Jin called to the soldiers. And look at what they choose to do instead. The soldiers looked at their guns, then at the plants, then at the hybrids who could have killed them but didn't. One soldier dropped his gun, then another, and another. Stop, the general shouted. I order you to. But Du-hyun had sent one last wave of water at him. The general fell, his suit's speaker breaking. No one could hear his orders anymore. Jaiwan walked over to join the other hybrids. "I choose this," he said. "I choose to help." The soldiers began talking with the Haven people, looking at the plants with wonder. Some even started helping to plant more. "We won," Harry whispered. "No," Jinho said, smiling. "We did something better. We showed them a different way to live." Above them, the toxic green sky seemed a little lighter where their plants grew. It wasn't a complete victory. The world was still broken. But now they had shown everyone that it could be fixed, not through fighting, but by working together. 5 years had passed since the confrontation with General Bake. Haven had grown from a hidden base into a thriving city. The mountain walls now held gardens full of special plants, and the air inside was completely clean. Jinho stood at the city's main gate, looking out at the changed world. Where there had once been only toxic wasteland, now fields of glowing plants stretched far into the distance. The sky above them was no longer dark green, but a lighter color, almost blue in some places. "Thinking deep thoughts?" Harry asked, walking up beside him. Her butterfly-touched skin glowed softly in the morning light. In her arms, she carried their 2-year-old daughter, Minji. Minji was special. She was the first child born to hybrid parents. Her skin had a faint shine like her mother's, and she was as strong as her father. She could breathe both toxic and clean air. "Just remembering," Jinho said, touching his daughter's cheek gently. Dr. Han would be amazed to see this. Around them, Haven was waking up. Do-hyun's water system kept the whole city running, carrying clean water to every home. In the gardens, Mireille taught children how to move quietly and listen to nature. Ji-won, now fully free of the military's drugs, helped guard the city and plant new fields. Yu-jin was still their leader, but now she led a council that included both humans and hybrids. They worked together to plan new cities, plant more cleaning fields, and heal the earth. "The new baby is coming today," Harry reminded Jinho. They walked together to the medical center, where Dr. Kim's old research had helped them understand hybrid pregnancies. In the waiting room, they found Do-hyun pacing nervously. His wife, a human woman named Song Hae-yun, was having their first child. "Any news?" Jinho asked. "Not yet," Do-hyun said. His blue-tinted skin was even paler than usual. "They say the baby is healthy. They can see gills like mine, but small ones. And Hae-yun is doing well." More people came to wait with them. Mireille arrived with her adopted daughter, a girl she had rescued from an abandoned bunker. Ji-won came too, bringing flowers he had grown himself. Normal flowers that could now survive in the cleaner air near Haven. Finally, a nurse called them in. Hae-yun was sitting up in bed, holding a tiny baby with slight blue tints to its skin. "A boy," she said proudly. "We're calling him Han, after Dr. Han." Everyone gathered around to see the new baby. He was perfect, a blend of human and hybrid, able to live in both water and air. Later that day, Jinho took Minji to their special place, the memorial garden. Here, they had planted the first of the special seeds, and here they had built monuments to those who had helped make their new world possible. Dr. Han, who started it all. Dr. Kim, who helped them understand themselves. Park Sung-min, who had warned them of danger. "Your grandfather was a brave man," Jinho told Minji, showing her Dr. Han's monument. "He believed we could be better. He believed we could fix our mistakes." Minji touched the monument with her small hand. "Tell story," she asked. She loved hearing about how the hybrids had come to be. "Once," Jinho began, "there was a world that was broken. The air was poison, and people had to hide underground. But some brave people decided to try something new." As he told the story, more children gathered to listen. Human children and hybrid children sat together, all of them able to breathe the cleaner air that their parents had worked so hard to make. In the distance, they could see teams of humans and hybrids planting more cleaning fields. Every day, the toxic zones got smaller. Every day, the sky got a little clearer. That night, Jin-Ho sat with Harry on top of Haven's highest point. Min-ji was asleep between them. Above, through a break in the clouds, they saw something they had only heard about in stories. A star. The first star visible from Earth in over 50 years. "We did it," Harry whispered. "We're really healing the world." Jin-Ho held his family close. They weren't just survivors anymore. They weren't weapons or experiments. They were the bridge between humanity's past and its future. They were proof that even the biggest mistakes could be fixed if people worked together and chose to do what was right. Above them, more stars began to appear in the clearing sky.